Good morning, students. I welcome you all to this session. I'm Anita. In this semester, I'm gonna deal you with operating systems. So, as we all know, operating systems is the major core subject in your computer science engineering. So, in this semester, we are going to deal with this major core subject, which is called as an operating systems. It is going to have 3 credits, which is very important. Not only in your curriculum, it will be very much important when we are going for further education, like when we are going to deal with gate courses, like it will be the major role which is going to play. So, in the last semester, we have done with computer organization, is it not? So we have learned many of the things in the computer organization. We have learned some of the concepts like how we are going to manage the memory, how we are going to make sure which addressing modes it is going to happen. Like that, some of the concepts we have learned in computer organization. So that concepts may reflect in this operating systems also. So some of the concepts will relate to this operating systems. So let us, within no delay, let us start this session. So in this session, we'll be going to discuss what operating systems, what are the course outcomes of an operating system, and what is the syllabus you are going to study in this operating system. So these are the major things you need to go through when we are going to read a particular subject. So as I have said you before, the code of this operating systems is PC502CS, and it is going to have 3 credits. So let us discuss regarding the course outcomes. So course outcomes are very important, like when we are going to deal with any of the subject. I'm not going to specifically say you that it is not for the operating system, it is not for the computer organization. Suppose if you want to learn any sort of things, like if you are going to learn any new thing, you need to know what is the output we are getting. Output in the sense, after completing the whole course, what we are familiar with. So those are called the course outcomes. So when we are going to study this operating system subject, what is the output at the last? What we are going to be in your hand, in the sense you will be going to have all these 5 concepts you are familiar with. So in this, the first and the foremost thing is identify system calls and evaluate process scheduling criteria of an operating system. So first course outcome of this operating system is you are going to identify the system call. So here you'll be going to have that what do you mean by a system call? System call is nothing but you are going to invoke any of the thing, you are going to invoke the things, you will be going for the system call. Suppose I'll be going to give you a brief thing regarding the system call. System call is nothing but, for suppose in this we are going to deal with the operating system, right? First of all, what do you mean by an operating system? So as you all know, operating system is an interface between the user and the computer. If I ask you anyone, you people will be going to tell the same definition. What is the definition? An operating system is an interface between the user and the computer. But actually, that is not the proper definition in my point of view. Why? Because an operating system is an interface between the user and the computer hardware, but not the computer. We are not going to interact with the computer, we are interacting with the computer hardware. So we need an interface in order to communicate between the user and between the computer hardware. So that interface, what we call it as an operating system. First, suppose here we will be going to have, when we are going to have 3 levels of thing. So for first thing is, so here you will be going to have the operating system, and next one we'll be going to have the hardware parts. What are the hardware parts? In the sense, some, maybe it may be a processor, it may be a printer, it may be a plotter, it may be a scanner, whatever it may be, those hardware parts we call it as an hardware devices. So that is the here we'll be going to have. So here you are going to have the user, and next we'll be going to have which one is an medium, and later on we'll be going to have the other thing called as the computer hardware. So what our operating system is going to do is, this is our operating system. What our operating system is going to do is, it is going to act as an mediator between computer user and the computer hardware. It's not the computer, we have to mention it as a computer hardware. Suppose the user, like user is myself, I want to make use of printer. I want to make use of printer. That printer comes under the hardware part. So when I want to make use of printer, what the user is going to do is, user can't directly access the hardware parts of a computer. So we need an interface in order to invoke the hardware parts of the computer. That invoking part, we make it as an operating system. So through operating system, we'll be going to invoke the hardware parts of a computer. So in this operating system, here in order to activate this operating system, the user will make a system call. The user will make a system call. That system call will activate the operating system. This operating system will in turn activate the hardware parts of a computer. So this is how what the actual definition of an operating system. So operating system is an interface between the user and the computer hardware, but not the computer. We are not going to interact with the computer. We want to interact with the hardware parts of the computer. So in order to invoke that hardware parts, we need to make use of an operating system. How this operating system is going to be invoked, in the sense, by making use of a system call, we will be going to invoke the operating system. So when it comes to the first outcome, like by which means you are going to make the system calls and evaluate the process of scheduling criteria of an operating system. So by making use of that system call, we have to invoke the operating system, and then we'll be going to make use of any different parts of a computer. And next course outcome is develop procedures for process synchronization of an operating system. So procedures for process synchronization. So let me explain you what do you mean by process synchronization. Process synchronization is nothing but, suppose you are having different things. Like what are the different things? Suppose you are having different processes is nothing but different tasks you are having. So you are having task 1 and task 2 and task 3. So each task we call it as a process. So here we are going to have three processes. So three processes we are having. So each task we call it as a single process. So process synchronization, in the sense, so we are going to have a single CPU or a single processor. So in this processor, we want to execute task 1 and we want to execute task 2, as well as we want to execute task 3. So task is nothing but process. So process 1, process 2 and process 3 are there. These three processes wants to execute their task in the central processing unit. So here process synchronization, in the sense, synchronizing in the sense one after another. Like we shouldn't get any clumsiness between the processes. If first process is doing, second process has to wait. If second one is doing, third process has to wait. If third one is doing, the first process has to wait. So in order to have this process synchronization, we'll be going to have the concept of mutual exclusion. So that we'll be going to study in detail. Fine. So process synchronizing, in the sense, we are going to make use of different tools in order to synchronize the processes. So the process synchronization is the major task of the operating system. So there are many responsibilities or many services or many functionalities of an operating system. In that, the first and the foremost thing is this process synchronization. So, and the next one is memory management. So memory management is another task of the operating system, and the third one is disk management, and the fourth one is storage management. So all these are the different functionalities of an operating system. So in this operating system, we'll be going to study each and every functionality as each and every single unit. So first, process synchronization, it is a separate unit. Process synchronization, we call it also as process management and memory management, disk management, storage management, and we also have the file management. So all these are the important functionalities of an operating system. So this is how these functionalities are going to be happen. So in each and every unit, we will be going to discuss with the different functionalities of an operating system. So first, memory management, in the sense, like we'll be going to study memory. Process management, in the sense, we'll be going to study regarding the processes, how, what is a process, and what are the different states of a process we are having. So everything we'll be going to study in the process management. So here, when we are going to deal with this concepts. So after this, what we are going to do is we'll be going to have different course outcomes. As we are studying the different course outcomes of a process, course outcomes are very much important when we are going to have. So the next one is the process synchronization, and next one is the memory management and the disk management. I have already said you that memory management is also one of the functionality of an operating system, and disk management is also one of the functionality of an operating system. So after completing your whole subject, you will be familiarizing with all the things. And next one is solve issues related to the file system interface, implementation, and input output system. So we'll be also going through the file system management. So what do you mean by a file? So collection of data. So directory, there is a lot of difference between the file and the directory. File means a storage of data, we'll be going to collection of data, we'll be going to call it as a file. So all the files will be going to store in a directory. Managing of those files, we call it as a directory. So how we are going to manage that? What are the different file options we are having? Everything we will be going to know after completion of this unit. And last one is describe system model for deadlock, methods for handling deadlocks. So here you will be coming across the new term called deadlock. Deadlock, in the sense, like when we are going to say a deadlock, deadlock is nothing but, um, suppose here two processes are there. So process 1 and process 2. So when we are going to have process 1 and process 2, suppose if process 1 is handling the resources of R1, process 2 is holding the resource of R2. So here we are going to have process P1, and here we are going to have process P2. Here process P1 is holding the printer, and process P2 is holding some CPU. Fine. So in this process, P2 is currently utilizing the CPU, and process P1 is currently utilizing the printer. In order to complete this process P1, it needs printer as well as CPU. In order to complete the task of P2, it needs the processor as well as printer. But at this particular instant of time, P1 is having printer, but CPU is utilizing by P2. So in order to complete the task of P1, P1 should have printer as well as CPU, but CPU is in the control of P2. Whenever the P2 releases this processor, then only the P1 can complete its task. In the same manner, When it comes to the process P2, this process P2 is handling the processor, but in order to complete the task of processor P2, it needs a CPU as well as printer. But what the thing here is, printer is under the control of P1. So here P1 is waiting for the CPU and P2 is waiting for the printer. Here P1 is not releasing the printer, P2 is not releasing the processor. So this condition will be going to say it as an deadlock condition. So this we call it as an deadlock situation. Why we are terming it as deadlock? In the sense, here the both processes are locking in the sense P1 is not releasing the printer, P2 is not releasing the CPU. If P1 releases the printer, then only P2 can complete its task. If P2 releases its CPU, then only P1 can complete its task. So this concept is very important in the operating system. So by making use of this deadlock, like we are going to have deadlock prevention and deadlock avoidance. So after completing of this course, you will be going to know how we are going to deal with the conditions of deadlock prevention and deadlock avoidance too. Fine. So this is how we'll be going to have the deadlock conditions. So these are the different concepts you will be going to know after completing your whole course of the operating system. So these are the course outcomes. So not only the operating system, if you are going to learn any of the particular course, you have to think in a particular way that what is the output of, or else what are the things we are getting when we are going to study the particular course. Then only you can be capable of knowing what you are going to do. So that is the importance of course outcomes. And next come to the syllabi. As we all know, you are going to have 5 units, and each unit you will be going to have a different concept. So in near operating systems, we are going to have 5 units. So I'll be going to give a brief explanation regarding each and every unit. Right? So when it comes to the first unit, you will be going to know regarding the introduction of an operating system. So when it comes to the introduction of an operating system, like you will be going to know like what is an operating system and what are the goals of an operating system, what are the advantages of an operating system, disadvantages of an operating system, functionalities of an operating system, services of an operating system. All these comes under the concepts of operating systems. So all the concepts you will be going to coming in this operating system concept of operating system. And next you will be going to have the generations of an operating system, like how many generations we have in this operating system. We have, as usual, 5 generations we are having. Like we are having different technologies in different generations. So what are the technologies we have used in each generation, and what is the drawback of that particular technology, and why we have emerging to new technology? All the things we'll be going to cover in the generations of an operating system. And next is the types of operating systems. So there are different types of operating systems. Like we'll be going to have simple batch operating system, multi-programming operating systems, desktop operating systems, clustered operating systems. All the different types of operating systems we are having. So we'll be going to discuss regarding the different types of operating system. And next one is the services of an operating system. So what are the different services that an operating system is going to provide? So different services are nothing but the, like many services it is going to provide: the file system manipulations, error detections, resource allocations, and input output operations, program execution. All these comes under the services of an operating system. And we'll be also knowing regarding the system call. System call in the sense, what do you mean by a system call, and how it is going to invoke the hardware parts of a computer. All the things we'll be going to, what are the different functions we'll be going to have in system calls, we'll be knowing in the system calls. Structure of an operating system, like in how many different structures the operating systems is going to have. It is going to have the layered structure, monolithic structure, minor microkernel operating system structure. So all these are the different types of different structures of an operating system. And finally, we'll be going to learn the concept of virtual machine. So what do you mean by a virtual machine, and what are the things we'll be going to do in that virtual machine? All the things regarding this operating system we'll be going to study in the introduction part of an operating system. So this introduction is very very important in order to proceed to the further units of an operating system. So when it comes to the second unit, as I have said you before, the operating system provides different functionalities: process management, disk management, file management, memory management, storage management. All these are the different functions that are going to be provided by the operating system. So here, this process second unit whole completely deals with the process management. So what is a process, and what are the different states of a process? Different states in the sense we used to have five different states: ready, running, exit, waiting state, execution state. There are different states of a process. So when we are going to invoke a process, we have to check in which state that process is going to have. And this different state of a process is also an important question. And process state transitions. Process state transition in the sense, transition is nothing from changing from one state to another state. As I have said you before, new state, ready state, running state, exit state are the waiting state are the different states of a process. So when I am invoking a process, in which state it is? Suppose it is a new state. So state transitions are nothing but from new to ready state. What is the transition it is going to take? That state transition is going to study in the state transition. And next comes the important concept which is called as process control block. Which in turn we call it as a PCB. PCB is nothing but process control block. Process control block in the sense, for each and every process what we are going to invoke, so if that process is attached with process control block, so that we'll study in detail. So what are the things we'll be going to have that in process control block? For example, process number, process length, process address, process registers. What are the registers we are having? Process starting address, ending address. All the things we'll be going to maintain in this process control block. Now, like a register, when we are going to see our class register, we can identify how many students are there, like how many are coming regularly. Like that we need to get the information. In the same way, when we are going to refer to the process control block, we need to get the information, what is the process number, how many addresses, how much address it has been occupied. Everything will be going to comes to know in this process control block. So each and every process is attached with the process control block. Until unless we have not this process control block, we need not get any sort of information regarding that particular process. So that is regarding the process control block. And next one is context switching. This is also important concept, like switching from one state to another. That is the context switching. So this total is regarding the process. So after process we'll be going to have a thread. So in this thread we'll be going to have the definition, various states of a thread, what are the benefits of a threads, and what are the different types of threads we'll be going to have, and finally the concept of multi-threading. Thread is nothing but a small portion of a program, we call it as a thread. So what is the benefit of thread in the sense, suppose if we have 50 lines of code, 50 lines of code of a program. So in order to execute that 50 line of code of a program, it used to take a much amount of the time. And if any error is there, it is somewhat difficult to find where the error actually exists. So it is not the case with the 50 lines. If there are 1000 lines of program, it will be highly impossible for us in order to find out where the error actually exists. So in order to overcome that problem, what we have done is we included a concept of threads. Thread is nothing but that 1000 lines of code has been divided into 250, 250, 250, 250, for 250 lines of code. So checking an error in 1000 lines of code is very much easy than checking the error in 250 lines of code, is it not? So the thread is benefited like that. So in order to execute the program, or in order to finding the errors, or in order to make easy, like we'll be going to include the concept of thread. So multi-threading means like we'll be going to have number of threads, and how we are going to manage that all the threads in a single program. All the things we'll be going to see in the threads concept. And next comes the important concept is process scheduling. Process scheduling is one of the major concept in process management. Process scheduling is nothing but like scheduling different process. Like scheduling means like for example, we'll be going to schedule our daily activities, is it not so? We have to get up by 6 o'clock. By 6:30 we have to do some sort of physical activity. By 7 we have to get ready, or else we have to take the breakfast, like that some things we have to done. So scheduling is very much important in our daily routine, as well as when it comes to the processes also. Scheduling means giving a particular time for a particular process when it has to execute. So after first process, which process has to execute, all the types, all the things we'll be going to know in this process scheduling. So in order to make the process work in an efficient way, we are having different scheduling algorithms. This scheduling algorithms is very much important. Like we'll be going to have shortest job first, first come first serve, round robin scheduling. So all these are different types of scheduling. So by making use of any one of the scheduling algorithm, we are going to allow different processes to execute at different times, and multi-process scheduling also. So by this process scheduling concept is also very, very important. So totally the second unit covers what is a process, definitions, and what is a thread, what are the different thread concepts we are having, and finally the process scheduling. Process scheduling algorithms are very, very important when it comes to the second unit of this operating system. So when it comes to this third unit, we are going to have process synchronization. So process scheduling is different, process synchronization is different. So how we are going to synchronize the process? So here we used to have the race condition. Race condition in the sense two processes are fighting for a CPU to execute. So process P1 is there and P2 is there. Two are ready to execute in the CPU. So that comes the race condition. So while one is executing and another is modifying, the data is going to be different. So that is the race condition. So we have to synchronize the different processes. So how we are going to synchronize different processes in the sense by making use of mutual exclusion. So mutual exclusion is nothing but allowing only one process to enter into the critical section. Critical section is the one which is going to make only one process to execute. Not more than one process are going to allow to enter into the critical section. If only one process is executing, there is no chance of race condition, is it not so? So in order to avoid that race condition, we will be going to make use of critical section. In that critical section, only one process is allowed to do its complete work. And next one is Peterson solution. Peterson solution is also one of the solution in order to have the not to have the race condition. So next one is classical problems of synchronization. We are going to have different methods like producer consumer problem, bounded buffer problem, dining philosophers problem, semaphores, monitors. All these things will be going to synchronize the processes. Whatever the thing we are using here, whether it may be bounded buffer, producer consumer, reader writer, we used to keep some things, like we used to keep some notes that when reader is reading, nobody should write. When the writer is writing, nobody should update it, like that. We used to keep some rules on that, and we'll be going to make the processes to synchronize. This process synchronization is also very, very important concept. And next comes the deadlock. As I have said you, deadlock means like we are having two processes, and two processes are not willing to release its resources. If they are not releasing its resources, it doesn't complete the work. So there comes the deadlock situation. So what are the different necessary conditions in order to have the deadlock? What are the methods we are going to handle for the deadlock? What is the deadlock prevention? What is the deadlock avoidance? If deadlock avoidance is there, what is the algorithm we are going to use? So for deadlock avoidance, we are going to make use of Banker's algorithm and deadlock detection and recovery. So here this deadlock concept totally says is if a deadlock occurs, like what the things we need to have. So deadlock avoidance is there, deadlock prevention is there. So what is the difference between prevention and avoidance? Like prevention in the sense we shouldn't make our system to enter into the deadlock. So we have to take necessary precautions to the deadlock not to enter onto the system. Avoidance in the sense once the deadlock has been done, what are the different measures we are going to take in order to avoid that deadlock. So that deadlock avoidance is Banker's algorithm. So this is a very popular method, Banker's algorithm, and very important topic also. So by making use of a deadlock algorithm, like Banker's algorithm, we are going to make the deadlock avoidance. And the next one is deadlock detection. So how we are going to detect the deadlock and how we are going to recover the system from the deadlock. So all these concepts we will be going to cover in the deadlocks. In the process synchronization, we are going to study how to synchronize different processes by making use of different problems of synchronization. In this deadlocks, we are going to see what are the different necessary conditions for the deadlock and what are the methods for handling deadlocks and how we can prevent deadlock, how we can avoid the deadlock, what are the deadlock detection methods, and finally how we are going to recover the deadlock. So that is how the third unit is going to deal with. And another important concept is memory management. So as I have said you in the earlier, memory management is also one of the basic major concept of an operating system. In this memory management, we'll be going to study what are the different memories we are having. As you all know, like you people have a well aware of secondary memory and the main memory. Along with that, we are going to have the cache memory and also the associative memory also we are going to have. So in this memory management, like we'll be going to see how the memory is going to be managed efficiently. So as we all know, memory in the sense we will be striking with the main memory. So when we want to execute any single program, that program should be in the main memory. But what is the drawback of main memory? The main memory is very small. It can't accommodate the whole program onto the main memory. So if the main memory is not able to hold all the instructions, then how can we execute? So all these concepts we will be going to cover in the memory management. Efficiently utilizing the memory is the memory management. So in this memory management, we will be going to deal with the fragmentation, compaction, paging, all these concepts we will be going to make use of memory management. Memory management is nothing but utilizing the memory in an efficient way. That we call it as a memory management. And next one is the virtual memory. The virtual memory is also very much important. What do you mean by virtual memory? Virtual means the thing which cannot be seen. So actually that virtual memory is not there. Like we assume that a huge amount of memory is by our side and we are utilizing that bulk amount of memory. That concept we call it as a virtual memory. So in this we will be going to make use of locality of reference. What do you mean by a page fault? Locality of the reference concept is very much important as well as the page fault concept. Page fault in the sense when we are looking for a particular page in the main memory, if that page is not available in the main memory, that we call it as a page fault. So what are the things we have to do in order to if a page fault has been occurred? So next one is demand paging. Demand paging is nothing but we particularly want a particular page to be onto the main memory. So by on demand we are getting one page from secondary memory onto the main memory. Page replacement. Page replacement in the sense like the pages main memory is full, we have to take one of the page and we have to insert another page. Like how we are going to replace those pages? Here also we will be going to make use of page replacement algorithms, which are nothing but the first in first out algorithm, shortest job first algorithm, page replacement algorithms we'll be going to make use of, and we'll be going to replace the pages. This is how the fourth unit consists of the memory management and the virtual memory. And when it comes to the fifth unit, it totally deals with the first part totally deals with the input output hardware, second part deals with the file management, and the third part deals with the secondary storage structure. In this IO hardware, we'll be going to learn what are the devices we are having, what is the different device controllers we used to have, what is an interrupt handler, device drivers. So all the things we'll be going to learn in the input output hardware. When it comes to the file management, like we used to know the concept of the file. As we all know, file is a collection of data. So in order to have the data, like we are going to have different file operations, like read operation, write operation, append operation, copy operation, move operations. All these all this comes under the file operations. And next one, we used to have the directory. As I have said you before, we used to have a directory in order to manage the files. So all the files we are going to keep in a directory. Directory we also called it as a folder file. So all the things we'll be going to learn in this file management. And last topic is the secondary storage structure. In the secondary storage structure, we'll be going to study regarding the disk structure, disk scheduling algorithms, and disk management and the RAID levels. Redundant array of independent disk. RAID, the full form of RAID is redundant array of independent disk. So by making use of RAID levels, how we are going to organize or how we are going to utilize the secondary storage structure, we'll be going to study in this fifth unit, third part. So all these units covers the major functional operations of an operating system. Is it not so? So when we are going to learn the whole subject, and finally you will be going to have a very much worthy concepts in your hand, so that it will be very much helpful to your future also. When we are going to write the gate exams, this operating system plays a major role. We'll be going to have a lots and lots of questions from the operating system. So as it is the core part of your CSE curriculum, you have to read all the things with much of the care. So with this, we'll be going to have the conclusion of this session. So we are going to have an operating system. Operating system is nothing but it is an interface between the computer user and the computer hardware, but not the computer. Make underline of it. It is not the computer. It is the computer hardware. So these are the different concepts, different units, different concepts you will be learning in this operating system. So you will be going to have much of the information when you have completed your final course. Fine. Hope this session is very informative to you all. Listen to these videos, and then you will be going to understand which concept is useful for which thing, where we have to use a particular concept. Fine. Thank you all students. Have a great day. We'll meet you in the next session.